women of substance. So let me begin with you, Neda. Western sanctions, allegations of women's rights, these are the narratives which come in from the media. So can you, and Western media, so can you help me understanding how Iranian women perceive their image in Western media and how is it different?
Yeah. At first I want to focus on some words. Maybe it will be it will act as a kind of brainstorming. Let's start with the process meaning and at the same time Iran-India homogeneous identity, shared history, and at the same time dominance of Western media. The main issue that I want to concentrate on is the matter of process. We call something process that is going from, let's say in every field, in any field you can call a process when you have a movement toward, let's say, future. A process from subjectivity toward individual, it was what should happen for the freedom of women. It is completely natural in all over the world. We see some mechanism that is happening right now as the emerging mechanism with different initiatives. For example, we have BRICS Plus as the economic somehow mechanism that leads to an intergovernmental organization with different issues, with different initiatives for emerging cultures and emerging countries that want to change the new world order. This is exactly happening in parallel with the process of women in Iran. It is so hard. We have BRICS Plus. The emerging countries are trying to change the hegemony of Western-oriented neoliberal order. But in a cultural way, unfortunately, the dominance is going to be continued. The dominance of Western media and the Western hegemony is going to insert the life of women in Middle East, let's say, area. Unfortunately, they do not respect the autonomous identity of women in Middle East, and it's really hard. Let's give an example for example, intervention of the U.S. to Afghanistan. What happened in that time, during that time, was named under the guise of women freedom. But what was the result? Again, the intervention and the interference of an autonomous state by another country who is outside of the territory of a state called Afghanistan. Or this is exactly...
Let me interrupt you on that. The situation of women under Taliban was atrocious. They were being whipped.
I know.
They were hanged in public squares, and the Taliban had to be corrected. Right. What happened was that there was just a short period, when women got emancipated. They came out to work. They had education.
Yeah.
When the Americans were there. Forget about anything else. But I'm just talking about women and children. Women could go to schools, but that didn't happen now.
Sorry, dear Smita, if I don't make a mistake, the pronunciation of your name.
No, that's fine. Yes.
That's okay. No, it was just an example. Otherwise, it's not comparable with what is happening in Iran. Based on my colleagues and friends' statistics, and of course, the international statistics is not comparable. I just gave an example for the excuses that is made by the powers who are outside of their territory. They do not respect the autonomous standards of cultural taboos or cultural norms that is happening inside as the anthropologist, the American anthropologist Abu Lakhot. She is a perfect, I think, anthropologist because she knows the Middle East and different countries. And she has a quotation. If I don't make mistake, I cannot remember the exact quotation, but she says that a self-governed woman in a self-governed state is much more, has, let's say, more freedom than a self-governed woman guided by the states who cannot understand the standards of a state. I mean, they are outside of this territory.
So tell me about Iranian women. Are you guided by your own free will, or are you guided by the state? Are you guided by men? Are you guided by the religious police? Who guides you?
Thank you.
Okay.
We are guided by ourselves, to be honest. Let's call a spade about that. For example, I'm a mom of two little monsters. I'm a PhD student at Tehran University. I have finished my thesis, and at the same time, I'm working as the diplomat in Foreign Affairs Ministry of Iran. My first mission was the economic counselor. You know, the economic counselor, that sometimes some people are labeling it as the masculine, work or job. In Bucharest for 4 years, I am doing, my daily routine completely in a free atmosphere. I'm not guided by anybody. I have two brothers, and my society is not really patriarchal one. The women,
Iranian society is not patriarchal.
Not at all, really not. And the perception, the self confidence that the family and at the same time society, based on the cultural norm, is inserting into our soul is really unbelievable. You can. They have the connotation of you can everywhere. And you can just see the spirit of, you can see this spirit, you can just sense it with all your body and soul in every corner and cranny of Iran. Really, this is the truth.
I will go to your colleague now and speak to her about certain things. I began by asking Neda about women's rights because most of the narratives which come out is what the Western media writes. But we did see the Mahsa Amini case, and that didn't do much about the image of what Iranian women are going through. And now we're talking about the anniversary period of the Mahsa Amini case. So tell us, what is the right narrative? Is it somewhere in between?
Well, first of all, let me thank ORF for having the opportunity, providing this opportunity for everyone to come and, having very good dialogues and contribution to this forum. About Iran, of course, I was supposed to talk about, as my job is the head of Department of Training and Education in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I was supposed to have some, statistics and some facts about the training of women in Iran. But anyhow, before going to that, about your question, I should say that the situation of Iran should be seen from Iran, not from the outside. Medias and not even Western media. In fact, the propagandas and everything has its own rules. I know it very well because my master's degree was about political communications. So there are many, views and comments about the fact from different aspects, and when it is reflected from the medias, it should be something else. You should come to Iran and see the situation of Iranian women from Iran to see that. I don't want to say that there is no problem in Iran, but these are our internal problems. We have our culture, we have our freedom. The women in Iran are really, really powerful. As an example, I can give you, because the theme of my job is education, I can give you an example. Dr. Maryam Mirzakhani, who was an Iranian professor at the Stanford University, he was honored to gain the field medal, which is the most precious award of mathematics in the world. Maryam Mirzakhani was, immigrated to U.S., I think after master's degree. How she could get this ability for being a very powerful woman in the world, in the science, he got it in Iran. Because he was 20, after 24, I think, after, living in Iran. So, of course, there are some problems, like every country which has India, Pakistan, US, France, its own problems. But the main, characteristics of the atmosphere that we live in Iran as the women is let's say, society, that women can improve, women can defend themselves, women have their voice. They come to the streets, yes, they have their voice. How could you know that women, some of the women are like that and protesting? Because they came to the streets, they have their voice, and they talk to the others. On the other
I had
hand,
another panel of Iranian women achievers, and they also gave this list of women achievers, and some of them said that even in STEM courses, science courses, women are coming forth. There are doctors, there are engineers, scientists who are women. So tell me about women in the workforce, how they are encouraged to take up pure sciences, they're encouraged to join the diplomatic corps. How do you train them, and what are the challenges that they face when they get into business jobs?
very good. You know, not only in Iran, but also I had many studies, many research about this issue, not only in Iran, but all over the world. The number of women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is in the labor market is less than men. It is not because of the abilities of women. I had an example. In primary school, middle school, high school, even in the first year of college, still the very good marks for mathematics, computers, these fields, for men and women are equal. But at the end of college, you see that little by little, the graduation of women in these fields are much less than men. The main, let's say, reason goes back to mindset. You know, many of the people around the world associate math with male,
Yes.
and humanities and art with women.
It's in India too, that's true.
Yeah, in many countries. So if we change the mindset, and if we try to, let's say, make the better atmosphere for all girls in order to have their self-confidence, to know that they can, whatever they can reach, whatever they wish, even in science, they will improve and they can get very high level in different position. In Iran, we have many professors in university, especially Amir Kabir University, which is one of the most important math and engineering university of Iran, and many women are, as the professor, are working in that.
You know, Neda, I'm going to come to you. In India, there was this mindset in many families that women should take up courses whereby when they take up careers, it is easier for them to manage home as well as a career. That kind of changed, and now you have, even in space research, women are working. They're there in the military. They're there everywhere in India, including businesses, unicorns, startups.
Yeah.
Whether it's in micro startup, it's small scale setup in rural India, as well as in urban spaces too. What are the problems that women in business face because of the sanctions which are slapped on Iran? So how are they able to surmount that problem?
Unfortunately, to be honest, the matter of imposing sanctions on Iran and business environment, of course, we cannot deny it has affected this atmosphere strongly. For example, let's say, of course, some mechanism and initiatives has been proposed and posed by some organizations like BWA, BRICS Women Alliances. We are hopeful that these kinds of initiatives are going to become helpful for promotion of the country's business environment, especially for women. When the motto is going to be unlocking the power of women, or just inserting the power of business women into the global value chain, it is becoming a kind of hope for Iranian or those member states of the, for example, organization. Sanctions, again connotes the pre-established sense of superiority. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your discussion with my dear colleague Mojgan, but the matter of movement, so-called movement of the previous year, women life and freedom was exactly the same thing. When
The hijab protests, you mean?
yeah. The
Okay.
pre-established sense of superiority or standardization of what is outside of the territory of Iran can be dangerous. The sanctions are targeting exactly the autonomous resilience or the autonomous decisions made by business women. And it will alter, it will alter the development of the country. But it resulted, to be honest, in some good cases, because our startups and STEM, as we had in India during 2008, that the IT section was afflicted with that crisis, financial crisis of India. Sorry, financial crisis of 2008 affected
India.
exactly India, especially IT sector.
Yes.
This is exactly the same. It happened in Iran. The sanction is a long-term
Yes.
period, let's say, cruelty done to the atmosphere, but we are doing our own, we are counteracting our own attempts in order to, let's say, resist against it. For example, in biotechnology, although it has been under the sanctions, we have met, especially women, in the case of health, that is in the health sector, and at the same time, for example, in industry, they have made the remarkable achievements by women because they have tried to stop the cycle of domination. We are considering these kinds of superiority as a kind of domination. So they have redefined the concept and they have tried to build the future themselves. We have many startups. We have, I had an statistics made, an international one. I cannot remember the reference, but for example, it had compared 2016 to 2000, the prospect 2025. It had become tripled. 25, of course, it was an estimation, and it had become tripled really, although we were under the sanctions. This is what comes out of the sanctions.
Mujgan, do you agree with this, that because of the sanctions, the startup culture has had roadblocks, and it's something that would have empowered women much more if they didn't have to battle with these sanctions?
Well,
The reason I'm asking is because wherever you talk in the world, the people talk about empowering women. What about Iranian women? If you impose sanctions, you cannot empower women. So that's why I want to get to that.
yes. Well, in fact, this is just my personal idea, personal view about it. Sanctions are really terrible. Makes terrible situation. It is not easy to have that. Most of the companies or industries and everything do its job as a normal situation. But if we want to make, let's say, situation a little bit, we want to, let's say, study the situation for women and men separately, I can say that as always, I believe that women are stronger than men. So they can tolerate this, let's say, situation better. For example, if they face any problem with their startup, with their, let's say, companies or everything, they increase their, let's say, efforts. Once I remember that, it was 2-3 months ago, I met a lady who was her own, let's say, company about صنایع دستی چی میشه؟ Handicrafts and something.
So rural women you're talking
No,
about? Or urban?
no. He is urban. She was urban, and she has his own, let's say, business. And she told me that sanctions really affected her job because of many problems for importing and finding.
Yeah.
But still, I asked her, okay, why you don't close it? She said that I made double effort in order to keep my business, in order to be alive in this industry. I'm doing a lot because I have lots of female workers. So if you look at the issue from this aspect, then you can say that, yes, it makes the women more powerful. But still it is so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, sorry, dear Smita. I didn't. I think to some extent I was misunderstood. Maybe partly, I didn't want to. I didn't want to say that sanctions is really fruitful or like this. I didn't connote
No,
that.
you didn't that, yeah.
Yeah. The matter is that there is no other way. When you have, you cannot be placed in the global value chain. You are going to refer to yourself. You know,
Yes.
you are going to create. You are going to clone yourself, colonize. I mean, to refer back to your own abilities without any help. So you will become more resilient. What is happening in our startups and STEM.
Neera, I'm going to ask you for your personal story.
Of course.
You're a diplomat. Why did you decide to join the diplomatic corps? And when you come to international fora like here, or if you are going to any other forum, what is it that people ask you? How do you present your country's point of view? Do you get a pushback?
Sorry, in which case exactly? As a kind of diplomat, you mean?
Yes, as a diplomat, do they question your regime? Do they ask you why are you defending the Iranian regime? Do they ask you those questions? Is it hard to defend what happens in Iran?
To be honest, it's not hard for me because I'm a part of this society, and I'm not going to. To exaggerate on some
Okay,
issues
let
or
me
like this.
put it in
but-
context. I didn't mean it that way. What I meant was, like, for example, an Indian diplomat in the UN, when we had our nuclear tests, there was a pushback, and there was like, what are you doing? Why are you having a nuclear test? Who are you to start a nuclear technology for weapons? So, that's the pushback that India got, that you can't even feed your country. You have people below the poverty line, and yet you want to get into nuclear technology. So this is the pushback that an Indian diplomat got in, say, the 70s.
I got it.
So when you, as a woman diplomat and as a woman diplomat from Iran, you go to international forums and you're sitting there, and in the panel everybody's criticizing your government. How do you feel at that stage?
To be honest, I have never faced such a thing. Nobody has given such a kind of pushback to me. Never, ever, to be honest. But this is the case.
So they
for
don't say,
example,
like-
when I was for 4 years in Bucharest as
Brussels,
economic counselor, it was so surprising for example, that part of the world, that how a woman, can be in the field of economy, and she can be so active in that field. I had many meetings, for example, with businessmen from different countries, Germany, Romania, and other parts of the world, and we were interacting very well. And it had very, thanks God, fruitful result for my country. No, I didn't face such a
So
thing.
in international forums, they don't say, "Oh,
No.
you're a rogue country. You have a rogue government." They don't say that about Iran. You don't need to defend at times when they say these things.
I think
Do
people
you
are.
let me complete whatever Neda
certainly.
is trying to say. I sometimes face some, from the first, it's around 30 years that I have worked for Ministry of Foreign Affairs of my country. And I do remember from the first meetings, international meeting, many years ago, when I participated with hijab. Hijab is my personal selection, and it is one of the, let's say, rule of my country. When I attended the meeting, the women especially from Western country, because in East it is understandable and so normal, but from the Western country, women came to me as how could you work with this? And it was so funny and so strange for me. I said that, what do you mean that I am here? Yeah, they were asking that, could you, I do remember one lady from Europe, he said that, how could you go to abroad I said, no, I'm in Romania.
This is the lack of
What,
cognizance.
what do you
know?
mean? I have
Yeah.
came from a country to Romania to participate in an international meeting, and you are asking me, how could you go abroad? Of course I can. You know, this is the things that I said from the first. Each country has its own problem, but the media, especially the Western media, has made another picture from Iran.
It's a kind of a journey.
Nowadays, it is, please let me say that because it's something in my heart that it is for, I think, 2-3 days, it makes me,
Resentful, yeah?
feel something. We were in Doha airport to come to Delhi. And it was a report from Gaza. And I saw a boy, maybe 8 or 9 years, lost his eggs. And he was crying and just said, I want my legs. I want my legs. In that special moment, I thought that if the people around the world put everything aside and just try to have the peace and to have a good answer to this boy, it is much better than all kind of arguments and why are you like that in your country, in my country. We put these ideas aside. We should have a good answer to that boy who wants his leg.
But
Why we are here? We are here in a very big forum in order to be close to each other, in order to understand the people. It's more than 2 days that I cannot sleep when I remember that many things has happened in Gaza, but sometimes some picture, goes to your heart.
Yes.
And you never forget it, whatever you have seen.
Especially if you have kids. In that case, sorry for the interruption, you think that humanity has been politicized. Maybe I don't want to make it political, but this is the reality. When
Everything
such
is political,
catastrophe,
Neda.
unfortunately, yes, when such catastrophe in that, size is going to happen every day, daily, and nothing is going to happen. I mean, no reaction, influential reaction is going to be taken. So who cares, for example, about the cognizance, lack of cognizance, or like that. I wanted to start my lecture, but I forgot about really the God of Kaza's women. The freedom that they do not have, what they desired, the normal life that they wanted, the genocide, the massacre that is doing every day and nobody cares. This is the real notion that should be noticed globally, that is going to be...
The October attack is what resulted in the Israeli reaction.
Yeah.
At no point of time am I trying to justify
I know.
the reaction of Israel. But what I'm trying to say is that everything becomes political, whether we like it or not. The humanitarian crisis,
Yeah.
the brunt of that has to be borne by women and children, unfortunately. These are political decisions taken in rooms to inflict terror, and the victims are the children who have lost their legs, mothers who have lost their sons, fathers who have lost their daughters. And even till today, we are seeing what is happening in Gaza, whether it is hostages not come back home to Israel, or whether it is the lack of food and humanitarian aid which is not coming to Gaza. It is a humanitarian disaster for which there are no solutions, it
sorry,
seems.
dear. The worst thing is that, unfortunately, these campaigns for freedom or like this has become a kind of moral crusade, This is what is really catastrophic. You cannot imagine, okay, under the guise of what? Freedom? What are you doing? This is really resentful. And I think as we saw in all over the world, nobody could bear it. That's why maybe nobody asks me, because they do not rely on media.
Yeah.
Media speaks by itself.
Okay.
And that's maybe that's the reason why nobody asks, for example, an Iranian lady about what you mentioned, because nobody relies on the media which is captured by some specific elements and narratives. Exactly.
Mojgan, in conclusion, I would like to ask you about India. Is there curiosity among Iranian women about India? And what are the impressions that you're going to take back about India back to Iran?
Your country is really, of course, it's better to talk about Delhi. In Farsi, we say Delhi, but I think you're Delhi.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, Delhi has a number of pronunciations. There are many people who say Delhi.
Delhi, yes. Yeah. First of all, let me say that Delhi is a very beautiful city. During these 2-3 days, we had some sightseeing around the city, and I enjoyed it a lot. And about the Iranians' view about this beautiful city and country, I should say that Iranians like Indians. Mm-hmm. It comes to the, let's say, common culture from many, many years ago. There are something which I think connect these two people to each other. Still, the people in Iran follow many things from India. About the I can say art of your country, about the cinema of your country, about let's say many changes and social developments. Everything is followed by Iranians because Iranian likes India and Indians. And I think this makes a very good atmosphere in order to work for a better future for both countries, to have very good and effective cooperation. I was thinking that yesterday I was in a meeting about in artificial intelligence, and there was many good, let's say, proposal in order to make a better world by AI. And I thought that it's very good, a new phenomena, that because I know that India is a pioneer in this field of science, I thought that maybe we in Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the officials in Ministry of Foreign Affairs of your country can have, let's say, joint meeting, seminars and workshop in order to share our experiences in this field to, let's say, get a good result, especially for promoting the women's life. How? By getting the new methods for training the women, by, let's say, fighting with women's trafficking and finding the criminals by AI, in order to have some solution about the joint problems. So I think very good background of friendship between Iran and India make us available to make us able in order to put the hands to each other and makes better, better atmosphere.
I'm just imagining world headlines where you say Iran and India to collaborate on artificial intelligence. And can you imagine how Western media is going to react to something like that? That'll blow up, like, imagine that.
No, still they will ask, what about hijab? So always this is an highlight. They should see the realities. And with all problems, with all, let's say, barriers that, in the Middle East and in the Eastern Asia countries, we, face, we improve, we are powerful, and we don't let anybody decide about us. We should decide about ourselves. Our women should decide about our lives, and we don't let anybody to do for us.
How nice. Nida, what are you taking back? What memories from India are you taking back?
My suitcase is really replete with kindness, Indian kindness, hospitality, and shared culture that is emanated, I think, from a shared reality that is, again, the shared culture. We had the same history. We had the process of colonization by some European countries, and we decolonized ourselves. This is the main issue that is common between Iran and India. And the other case is that I saw nothing but kindness,
And you want,
happiness.
and you think that more diplomatic relations between India and
Yeah.
Iran will further the cause of women
Of
in
course.
both countries,
Of
and
course.
especially for Iranian women, right?
Of course,
And
in
for the
different fields.
startup
By
culture.
networking, exactly, by networking, by mentorship, for example, between two countries. In different fields, we can cooperate and it will be really helpful. Or maybe we can also, in parallel with bilateral relationship, we can work in a frame like BRICS Plus. By the initiatives, as I mentioned, BRICS Women Alliances, it will really help.
And also
I'm really
tourism,
hopeful.
right? Iran has
Yeah,
now said
exactly.
visa on arrival for
Exactly,
Indians.
exactly.
What kind of tourists would Iran look for, right, when they're coming in from now? Iran has opened up for many countries visa on
Yes,
arrival.
yes.
Why is it that Iran has decided to open up now? Is it to dispel the wrong notions, or
It can be a cause, because I think every tourist that is coming inside our country can be a real ambassador, a real messenger, a real a real guide to what is happening in Iran, and he can show the real atmosphere, the real visage of Iran. Maybe it can be a cause. I'm considering that. I'm taking into consideration that one. The second issue can be the collaboration. You know, people to meet, people to people, a kind of exchange. Creating a kind of space that is going to be filled by two countries, people, not by the third party that I'm considering as the media. In that case, the shape is going to be distorted.
okay? I get that, and I take all the what should I say, the mild barbs that you're giving about the media. Being in the media, I'm kind of used to it now. But yes,
We are
I'm
tired of that, really.
I don't blame you.
Exhausted with
Yes,
that.
I can imagine. But more contact and more interaction, like what Raisina has provided, where you can come and you can put your point of view. It takes misconceptions away
Yeah.
and educates people more about your country.
Thank you for the
So,
opportunity.
thank you so much for being here,
Thanks a
and
lot.
look forward to meeting you again. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we
Thank
invite you to come
Yeah,
to Iran.
exactly.
I have been to Tehran
You
once.
will
Oh,
be the
good.
But
real
yes,
ambassador.
thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for the
very much.
invitation.
Merci.
Bye bye.
Merci.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. In continuation with the first panel, I have a second panel today of Iranian women on the sidelines of the Raisina dialogue. The panelists today are Professor Zohra Nusrat Kharazmi, Professor Tehran University, Iran; Professor Fariba Alaswand, Professor University of Imam Bakr, Iran; Masume Saif Afjahi, Head of Department of Human Rights and Women's Studies Center for Political and International Studies, Iran. Thank you, ladies, coming for the podcast. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I've heard so much about your country. I've been to Tehran and I have seen it. It's a beautiful country. So I look forward to this conversation. Want to know so much about women of your country, because all we see is what the Western media portrays about Iran. So I want to know from you about Iranian women and their contribution to society. So let me begin with Professor Kharazmi. Am I pronouncing your name properly?
Kharazmi.
Kharazmi. All right. Apologies.
Yeah, you
So-
may call me Zohra. It's maybe easier to pronounce.
Zohra.
Exactly.
Okay. That's easy, because there are so many women I know whose name is Zohra in India. It's a name which is common in India too. So, or popular, I must say. So I want to ask you, Zohra ji, that when you travel outside Iran, and when you speak about contribution of Iranian women to society, what is the reaction that you get, especially in Western nations?
Great. You know, I've been in different countries, more than 23, 25 countries. And what I got is that very much the people are affected by the media representation of the Iranian women. When I was coming to India, I was just thinking that how it's interesting that we have a sort of common experience. Why? Because India has been colonial, but Iran doesn't have actually the sort of experience of being a colonial. But we have a similar experience as women. As you see, the West always tries to make a sort of other, and this other is very much framed as backward, not developing, not intelligent enough, sensual men, exotic women, and sort of very orientalist, actually stereotypical images are really constructed and very much disseminated by the media. And this is the fact that the Indian women for centuries were framed in the same frame. And after 9/11, then a sort of Islamophobic discourse became very much predominant in the West. This actually changed to be the frame for Muslim women, particularly Iranian women.
Okay.
So this very politicized image through the media is making the image and mind of the people. But when you are getting contact, when you are sitting and talking, when you have interactivities like this, this actually dialogues is great to make us sit and actually talk to each other, then you understand that the realized self of the people in our countries is absolutely different. And then when you're giving particularly some numbers, for example, when I say that 40% of the Iranian women are the physicians, 40% of the physicians are actually women. Yes.
Okay.
Or when you are thinking that more than 7, for example, accelerated companies are just managed by women, then you understand that how the reality is becoming to be different and perceived differently. So the interactions are changing.
Okay.
That sort of freeze is going to be melted down and the people start to talk.
Are those women working only in Iranian companies, or do they go abroad and work in companies outside? And what that is one question. And the second question is, Iranian women in higher education you've spoken about. What about women in rural areas? Because I read somewhere that rural women in Iran also are involved in micro industries, in the sense small scale.
Yeah.
What is their contribution to the economy, to society? What do they do? Because there's just one article which I read in Tehran Times about them.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about that too?
Yes, actually, I have an estimate that indicates that 300,000 women in rural nomad areas have been trained in different vocational skills and different educational courses they have taken. The life skill itself is very much promoted, like what UNESCO actually has characteristics of the life skill. Many Iranian NGOs are working at their life skills in even remote areas, in rural areas. So they are very much engaged in different sorts of trainings and educational and empowering programs. And about the going abroad and working in different companies that you asked, I think it's okay because we have lots of women actually entering STEM majors,
Okay.
like the engineering, like the, for example, technological, high-tech actually courses and majors. So many of them also have markets outside Iran. But one of the actual obstacles is that many of them are actually having high potentials to be great engineers, great, for example, managers. But the sanctions made lots of actually obstacles for them because when
Yes.
even it's not easy to, for example, transact money, when it's not easy to do the transaction, so you find very much restricted. So
Yes.
I think that when you're talking about the women's human rights in Iran, part of it should be actually address the unilateral coercive measures against us that's very much restricting this highly potential women from doing their business.
Professor Fariba, often the narratives about women that come in about Iran is about oppression and about violence against women. But what happens is that these are narratives written by the Western media. When the hijab protests were happening in the streets of Tehran, in India there were parallel protests happening, but it was the other way around. There were people who were protesting that women should be allowed to wear hijab in universities, high universities. Basically, that it's a democracy, and if nobody should have the right to tell another person what to wear and what not to wear. So if you want to wear a hijab, go ahead and wear a hijab. Now, so those were dialogues which were happening parallelly. In your country, it was different. In our country, it was different. Tell me about women's rights in Tehran. Is it a lot of oppression only, or as we just heard from Zohra ji, that it's more than that. That is one aspect of it, but there's more than that too.
Yeah. And thank you for your question. It's important to know and understand the atmosphere in each country we breathe in. And I want you to know about this atmosphere or cultural or colorful culture in Iran or maybe in your country. There are a lot of misunderstanding between us and other people in other countries about our rules or Islamic rules in Iran. Yes, hijab is important value for us, and we obey that. But in Iran, there are a lot of forms of hijab or dressing or coat dressing for women, and you if you visit Iran and Iranian women, you can see freely a lot of women they wear what they want. But yes, in Iran we are some forbidden rule for hijab, for scarf, but it's important to know with this hijab, all women in Iran can progress toward. For example, there are some concert areas that mention in the some international documents, such as Beijing document, and we know women in around the world have common pain, common feeling, common law, common rights, but it's important to know in Iran, Islamic values cause women to progress and development toward. For example, in education, in sport, in healthy, and in all of areas, people think about that for women life. We have some records in these areas, because in during these decades, 4 decades after revolution, Islamic revolution, we achieved to this position for women. For example, before the revolution in Iran, 33% of all of people in Iran were educated. But after revolution, now we face up these numbers. 3% of women in And are educated. It's
Professor, 99% of women are educated in
99 and 3.
99.3%.
Yeah.
So when you say educated, till what level? Is it primary school?
60 of entries in the university in Iran are women.
60% of higher education.
Women. And or about the healthy, you ask my colleague about the rural people.
Yes.
Yeah. In Iran, after revolution, we expand a lot of healthy centers for women, and in these days, 95% of childbirth are made by
women doctors.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
women
important.
gynecologists.
Yeah. It's important because in the document of development, in international document of development, they made this goal for this area. They say people in around the world have to achieve 25%. But in Iran now we are in this position. I mean, if Islam, with all of frameworks for behavior for women or men, if Islam can be a starting point for progress for women. We have to focus on this religion, and one thing in this religion, such as hijab, should not cause us to misunderstanding about the Islam or hijab.
Okay.
You know, I mean, in Iran there are a lot of women with different and colorful dressing hijab, and all of them can enter the companies, enter the universities, enter the schools, enter the and participate in the society or political actions, and etc.
I'm going to come to women's rights, like property rights and things like that. But before that, I want to come to you, Ms. Afjihi. I want to ask you about women in media, women in international relations, because we've just heard about women doctors, we've heard women in colleges, in higher education, in medicine, in even in science and technology and STEM courses. Tell me about women in media and in foreign relations. In where have they achieved and till what level?
Thank you very much. At the outset, I should excuse if my English is not sufficient, because I'm a Francophone and sometimes my pronunciation is French.
That's fine. My pronunciation of English is Indian. So we are at a platform where we have, at the Raisina, we have people from different parts of the world.
Yes.
And so long as we can make ourselves understand each other, I think we have achieved what we wanted to.
Let me please, for now and understanding better the Iranian situation in Iran, I explain three important points about our society. Before your answer. First, we need to have a look on the context they are acting in, because Iranian society is a dynamic society, mainly based on cultural and religious values and tradition, which inherently, unlike Western communities, consider different role for men and women. These traditions entail different opportunities in themselves, and Iranian women have been able to use opportunities. Second point that is important to judge women's position in Iran, it is essential to compare their current position with that of their past before the revolution, and compare with that of their counterpart in the region, because our values is different. Thirdly, Iran has been under severe economic and political pressure during last 4 decades. Just a year after the Islamic Revolution, Iranian society involved in an 8-year war imposed by Iraq. After the war and before Iran found any opportunity to rebuild its economy, the country faced the severe unilateral and multilateral economic sanctions imposed by United States and Europe, which was in fact another type of war, an economic war. So in Iran had to resist and rely on these own capabilities in these military and economic wars. We cannot analyze the situation of women in Iran without paying enough attention to these challenges, because half of the population of Iran saw the women, and we cannot analyze our situation without attention to these challenges, political and economic
So
issues.
is it difficult for women to come to the workplace? At home, do you have to convince your parents that you want to go to work, you want to go to the office?
No, I have many.
Because you must have been born during the war period, right? Or were you born after the war period?
After the war?
After the Iran-Iraq war?
Yes, after no,
میگه بعد از
after
جنگ دنیا اومدین شما؟
no, I was born before revolution.
Before the revolution.
Yes.
Okay. So
I study in Iran as I can many statistics for you say how Iranian women have progress in different fields after the revolution with many pressure, political and economic imposed by West. For example, in the field of cinema, that is one of the
Media, yes.
media. The present participating women in the field of cinema and arts is another of their progress. 2003 women are engaged as media editors. 900 women are active as filmmakers. 2,000 women are working in professional backstage in cinema activities. Women filmmakers have won 115 national awards and 130 international awards.
is
For
cinema important? Like, is media important for in Tehran, in Iran? People like watching movies.
Yes,
And yes.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Bollywood is one of the issue interesting for Iranian
Really?
generation, new generation, and the women too.
What do people in Iran know about India, and is there curiosity about India? Do they want to know more about India? Any of you can take the question, whoever wants
I
to.
can answer.
Yes, sure.
The image of India in Iran. India is a historical country which so many culture commonalities with Iran is considered as one of the most attractive countries of the region for Iranian. As you can see this in touristic approach of Iranian who are very interested in India historical attraction. In addition, as I say, Bollywood movies are very popular in Iran.
I think
And
recently they just announced that visas will be opened up
Yes.
for tourism purposes. For Indians
Yes.
can arrive on visa on arrival for Indians
Yes.
out there,
This is
right?
facilities.
Yes.
Add one point.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's a very important question, how we are perceiving each other. We have lots of actually long history, lots of commons in culture. For example, how the family institution is valued by the Indian culture and as well as actually Iranian culture. But still, we are not in dialogue as we really deserve to be. And one of the reasons is that I'd like to refer back to Chandra Mohanty, the Indian actually scholar, that says that usually the West, particularly media and academia, through the institutions, the international institutions, they are making a sort of a third world woman. And the third world woman is very much like talking about a sort of universal patriarchy, the woman that is oppressed, that is subjugated, that is suppressed. And this image is so predominant in the media that many people around the world believe. And also even us. This is something that even is internalized in us. For example, when we are looking at India, Indians are looking at us.
Yes.
And we are looking at each other very much from the prism of the Western media. And it should change, We need to have interactions. For example, I'm working and I'm serving in the university and I'm teaching, our faculty has postgraduate students, and lots of them, of course, are women and girls. So we have Indian studies in our faculty.
Okay.
So we can host lots of dialogues that the
What
Indians.
What do you study there? What do the students study?
I'm actually did my studies in American studies, and I'm teaching in the same department. But we have Indian studies as well. So I think that can host a lot of actually dialogues about different political and social issues. That I'm sure that we have lots of actually shared values to talk about. But letting be, and I like again refer back to another Indian scholar that's teaching in Princeton, Gayatri Spivak. Gayatri Spivak believes that we should unlearn what's learned to start learning about each other.
Okay.
Lots of the stereotypical images needs to be broken first to give us the courage to go and understand the reality of each other. Maybe us about the Indians and Indians about us.
Do you agree with that, Dr. Farima?
Yes, yes. I think, as you said, the media is obstacle. Yes,
Obstacle.
yes, yeah, and forbidden us to know about each other. I have to mention to this statement from our leaders, a supreme leader of revolution in Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, said, we don't want to follow the traditional women, and we don't want to follow the Western women, but we want to create a third pattern for women who participate in the society and has a lot of view, a smart view about the policy, about the society, about the problem in the society for people, about the poverty, about the power, about the participation in education, and all of things we need. And in that time, exactly, she pay attention about the mother role in the family, about the femininity, her femininity, and her feelings as a woman, and have to develop inside of personality about the personal relationship between her and God, between her and family, between her and society. I mean, this pattern, we call that the third pattern for women in New World.
Okay.
We have to follow this pattern for women. And when the supreme leader in Iran, when he has this point or this view about the women, he start this project for Iranian women. And me and my colleague, our Iranian women could educate in Iran, got married in Iran, have a child, and participate in the society. I mean, we can gather between different roles as a woman, as a woman, and as a human.
What about rights? Can you join politics? Can you own property? Can you drive cars?
Yes.
Can you do all that?
Yes, it's regular in our life. All of us drive the car, and all of us participate in the society. We have jobs, good job, and in high level.
You can inherit property.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
So it's not as if the property goes from a man to his son, and
No,
it's not that.
No.
So women can inherit.
I mean, we have personal properties. Yeah.
Okay.
And we can spend our money.
Okay.
What we want.
Okay.
And in Islam view, husbands have no any right about the women property. And if I want, I can.
No, I can't say in Islam or in Christianity or in Hinduism, because every country has a different form of Islam.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking you driving is simply because we tend to compare it with Saudi Arabia, tend to compare it with UAE or different Islam, right? Indonesia, wherever you want to compare it with. So Islam as practiced in Bangladesh won't be the same as in Iran. So that's why.
I give you an standard about that. A standard about that. If Islam view cause to progress, to development women to world, it's a great reading of Islam. And in Iran, we experience
that form of
that,
Islam.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
One question I wanted to ask you when we were talking about media and all. I recently saw a picture of your first lady. She's also in the education field, and she came out and she's a professor of educational philosophy, and she heads the university's science and Technology Research Institute. So and she came out and she spoke, right? And that was kind of a break with tradition, some people said, because usually politicians' wives stand at the back and they don't really come out in the forefront. But here she's coming out and she's speaking out. Did that impact on young women in...
This is our training for women, for girls. This is the method we follow that when we want to train and grow up our girls, and there isn't any forbidden in Islam view or in belief of people. But yes, maybe there are in Iran there are some problems for women or for some girls in Iran. But mostly people, especially after revolution, people want to make developments for women, for girls, and it's very popular in around Iran.
When you talk, yes, go ahead.
I add some statistic for better understanding the situation, because we have many statistics about Iranian situation in Iran. As Fariba said, according to the statistic of UNESCO in 2021, 94% of Iranian women was literate. Or, for example, in participating in the university, as I say, we must compare our situation with our past. Before the Islamic Revolution, only 27% of girls arrived in the university participate, but this statistic reached to 60% after the Islamic Revolution. Furthermore, 60% of the seats of countries' university belong to female professors, and 35% of countries' academic staff are also women. Currently, 25% government administrative position at the top, middle, and executive level are held by women. In our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, 14% of our diplomatic personnel are women, women making up 30% of executive director nationwide. 40% of the deputy position in the Environmental Protection Organization are reserved for capable women with a high level of management.
Interesting.
In the judiciary, more than 1,000 women are working as judges.
Professor, I want to come to you, Professor Zohra, because these are phenomenal statistics and not much is known about this in the world. But I want to come back to India. You know, when you were talking about that there is curiosity among the young people and there should be more encouragement. Tell me, do the young people, who are their favorites when they think about India? Like, do they think about Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan, or who is it that they talk about, or Salman Khan? Who do they think about?
I'm not sure about it, but actually all names, all names that you actually call are very popular, because Bollywood is very popular. Lots of actually Indian movies are seen and watched.
How are they seeing it on TV or?
Yeah, on TV very much, and of course, people have today access to the internet and actually streaming TV. So a lot of these cinematic actually images is circulating in Iran. And at the same time, I think, because as I said, in our faculty we have Indian studies, so I send different theses are written about India. For example, about family culture. I've been the referee of some theses. I'm remembering the subjects, for example, about the Indian family and the sort of hierarchy they have, about the Indian women costume, about the sort of representation of gender relations in American movies. These are the subjects that I remember. I've been the referees of the thesis. So going deeply through the Indian, going deep into the Indian culture is something very interesting for the Iranian youth.
Do Iranian students want to travel to India? Do you see that, Dr. Fariwa? Do they say, I mean, among the countries that women want to go to, does India figure anywhere in the pecking order? Like, do they want to pick that, okay, I want to, like, do they say we want to travel to Dubai? Or do they want to say that we want to travel to Disneyland? Do they want to travel to India? Does India come at all anywhere?
Yeah, I think Iranian people has a long story and long history, and they like some countries are common with them, and India I think has a long story as Iran, and has a colorful culture and religions, and has a big history, and we like that. So yes, in Iran, if I understood your question, Iranian like to travel to India, and this is the first time for me I traveled to India, but I wish that. And
what
it's
do you want
important.
to eat in India? What is the food that you think of?
What we know is it's a very spicy one, so we didn't get the chance to test it, but maybe tonight or tomorrow.
But the pulavs and the rice and the rice preparations, there are a lot of similarity.
Very much.
I mean, at least I found a lot to eat in Tehran, which was I didn't have a problem at all with food when I was there, because
we saw and visit a lot of Indian women and men in Iran, especially in Qom, and there are a lot of Indian, and we love them surely, and with India, with Pakistan, with all of countries around Iran, we have common sense and common point and common thinking. If it's correct to say this is a unique culture between us and India or Pakistan or Afghanistan or a lot of countries. Based on that, we have to rise in front of Western thinking and Western method of life.
Would you think that there should be more people-to-people contact between Iran and India, and that will take away the misconceptions, that is, the wrong ideas that anybody has? Because like we were saying, that most of the prisms, most of the views are colored by a Western perception.
Yes.
And now there's more and more talk that we should write our own narratives, not narratives which are written for us.
I can say that Iran and India, like many others countries, have been targets of misinformation and disinformation by the West for many years. This is very unfortunate that even our perception in countries like Iran and India, with a long history of our traditional exchanges, are affected by such propagations. I believe that the actual remedy for this problem lies in increasing direct exchange and interaction among two nations, promoting people-to-people contact like tourism, cooperation in media and academic fields can be useful. Recently, I know this week there is an exhibition in Hyderabad about fashion and mode, with organized by Iranian and Indian women in Hyderabad. This week, yes.
That's interesting.
Thank
I'd
you.
take closing comments from you if you have anything to say, to add, in case I haven't asked a question that you would. So one by one, I'll just ask for closing comments from you.
Thank you very much for this very actually great conversation. I think it's very essential to just, as I said, sit and talk about our real way of life and the sort of interests we have and sort of common roots we have. And about Iran, just considering that how much middle class has actually grown during recent years, even very remote villages have got actually paths, schools, hospitals. This development was actually difficult, particularly through the actually due to the effect of the sanctions, but it was done. And the Human Development Index indicates in the UN that how Iranian society was on rise. So I think that part of this development very much in India, in Iran, no difference, is because of the women playing their role. You cannot really ignore women when you are actually on the way of the development. And this is something that Iran also is doing very much. And I think that the civil society also matters. There are lots of NGOs in Iran, and I know that hundreds of thousands of NGOs are actually working in India. So I think that having a good collaboration between them can be very vital to make us actually have just combating poverty, letting actually women to be much more empowered, maybe vocational training, that would be very great. Maybe the handcrafts are the good actually choice to be working together and making these actually collaborations come true.
Micro industries, yes.
Yeah. And exactly, I think that even the trade, because there are trades women in Iran, lots of actually companies have women as their managers and founders. So there can be lots of actually economic action gives and takes between us. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Would you like to say?
There are international domination by media or by international institution, GOs or NGOs that don't want to do what we want based on our culture or on religion or anything we want or we like. But I think not withstand of our problems, we have to achieve and follow our national method for solving women's problems or family problems around the world and in our countries, and we can do that by the property we have, and we are in need of national method in these days for solving problem, because international law or international document or international culture doesn't belong to us, and we have to,
in the sense that yours is different.
And as you know, media that showed an imagine bigger than it be in Iran about the hijab or about the women, and about some events occurred in Iran in the last year. But in these days, we face up killing of people, killing of children, killing of women in Gaza. But media don't pay any attention for that. It's double standards, and we have to follow the different method for our country.
Yeah, one size doesn't fit all is what I think everybody at the Raisina is also talking about, that every country is coming up with solutions, because you can't impose solutions on people. Tell me your point of view before we wind up.
The point I like to insist about the Iranian situation, that the situation of Iranian women should not be compared with the Western or Eastern democracies. Iranian women have been able to have all their achievement in the context of society facing, as I mentioned, 8-year war and severe sanctions. The situation of the population of the region cannot be compared on the countries which are not experiencing political, economic, or social crisis. On the contrary, it is an honor for the community of Iranian women that under this political and economic pressure, we have been able to improve their position significantly.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
And wishing you all the best. I hope you get to travel in India and experience shopping as well as food. The cuisine, I think you will get to eat here as well as in Delhi has a number of restaurants. You must go out and try out some of our food. And the fabric. You can take back a lot of fabric from India. We've got a lot of colorful fabric which you can pick up.
Thank you.
Thank you so
See you
much.
soon in Iran.
Visit
inshallah.
Iran.
Thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Thank you for inviting us.
It's been a very interesting conversation.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening in to this